we get the biggest battle that we've seen this season, and I would argue this series overall. And I think the filmmakers behind this show also gave us an episode on the same level as some of the best and most bombastic, action-focused episodes of Game of Thrones, like Battle for the Blackwater and the Battle at the Wall and stuff like that. You know, we get an epic and bloody siege with multiple dragons in the air, betrayals, and deaths of major characters. It's just simply thrilling and extremely entertaining on a pure visual spectacle level. Like, it looks great. The money's on the screen. It's beautiful looking, seeing these armies move around, this castle, the dragons sweeping and clashing in the air, like all that. But it's also an emotional one as well. Let's go ahead and move on to the next part of my stream, and that's for my review for House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 4. So just starting off, chat, you know, I'm really glad so many of you guys convinced me to do just weekly reviews for House of the Dragon. Originally, I was just going to do my first impressions and then later do a full Season 2 review after these 8 episodes had been released, which I still plan to do as well, doing a full Season 2 review. But after watching Episode 4, the Red Dragon and the Gold one, I implore you guys to check out this season when you get the chance. Because not only have we gotten the best episode of this season so far, but I think you can make a very good argument that this might be the best episode of the series so far as well. And yes, we got some excellent episodes before then, of course, you know, especially in season 1, like wonderful scenes in many of those episodes. But this gives you all the great politicking, strategy between characters, and conversations between our principal and supporting characters as well. But also a ton of action, spectacle, and some truly epic dragon fights. So for everyone that was critical that there wasn't enough dragons, well, here you go. Now, while I was critical of the last third of the first episode, kind of how they handled the blood and cheese of it all, I do not agree with some of the recent complaints about this show being slow or having too much dialogue between the characters. You know, much like in the first season and Game of Thrones in its entirety in general, you know, these passionate and fascinating conversations is what invested me in these stories and world to begin with in the first place. You know, I love the political intrigue, the backstabbing, and the constant changing of alliances. So when we do get an episode with a major action sequences, and huge ramifications for our characters, it makes those episodes prior to this one worth it because they developed and expanded on those characters to begin with. And that's exactly what we got here with Episode 4. We have a lot to cover in this particular episode, and there are several plots and subplots that really stood out to me. The first, however, that I want to cover, and I believe it's what this episode I think actually starts with, is Daemon Targaryen, and you know, Matt Smith, who's played Daemon obviously since the first season. He was so good in that. He was a standout character. I think for a lot of people, it was their favorite character. Certainly, it was in the conversation of being a lot of people's favorite character last season, and he's been great so far as well. And these last couple episodes have been dealing, you know, with his guilt over the death, the murder of Prince Jaehaerys, and how complicated his feelings are towards Rhaenyra, and how coveting the Iron Throne has made that even more difficult for him over the years, but especially now at the start of the Dance of Dragons. And because of the fallout of the death of Prince Jaehaerys, he's taken upon himself. He's like, all right, well, in order to win this war, we got to get Harrenhal, which is this massive fortress, which of course has been mentioned in Game of Thrones and obviously in House of Dragon. It's kind of the heart of the Riverlands. If you control Harrenhal, then you're able to control the Riverlands and also many other areas of Westeros, since so many different kingdoms have to go through the Riverlands in order to access certain places and also to assist the Greens in King's Landing. And he's taken upon himself to do that, and does it with relative ease, taking it over quite humorously, I might add. But while he's been there, he's dealt with a guilty conscience and these strange dreams and visions that he constantly has, and this has brought him to meet, and I think also just has properly introduced us to a new character. And apologies if I'm mispronouncing her name. They do introduce like a lot of new people just in this episode alone, and also just this season in general. But Alice Rivers, who's played by Gail Rankin, who has been seen in other things. I've definitely seen her in other movies and TV shows before. And she's like the witch, if you will, of Harrenhal. She kind of poses as this wet nurse. She's a bastard of House Strong. But she's got a witchy vibe going on. And she always manages to weasel her way in and worm her way into all these different visions and dreams that Daemon Targaryen has had. And he comes to finally truly meet her for the first time and have a conversation with her, and she's a fucking firecracker of a character. She's very odd, sarcastic, but also intelligent as well. And I really liked her dynamic with Matt Smith in the scenes that they shared. Also, she ends up what happens is, it's so funny. She gives Daemon, despite their really odd but also very amusing and funny conversation, she just ends up giving Daemon this concoction, this witch's brew, this potion, and he just starts tripping balls. And so he loses track of time. He blacks out. He's in the middle of conversations, has no idea what's happening. And it's just an interesting way to present Daemon, because we've never seen him like that before, like thoroughly out of his element, interacting with a character like this, which, again, he's never had any interactions with before. It was cool to see him try to still present himself as like, I'm the rogue prince. You know, or not even that. I am the king of Westeros, the queen's consort, the king's all that, and he's kind of barely holding it together, and I found that very, very fun. And I think just a great way to open the episode. And, of course, just later on, peppering that through the episode itself. And just say, okay, how is Daemon tripping balls, like, right now at this given time, while trying to go over, like, tense negotiations, whether it be with, members of House Tully or, the Blackwoods, which just want to kill, Brackens all the time. It was great. Along with dealing with his guilt and his, again, already very weird, very strained relationship with his niece wife Rhaenyra. So all that was great. And again, a wonderful introduction to a new character who I feel like is going to be around for a long while. And I'm actually very excited to see how Alice Rivers is going to interact with some other people, some other notable characters as well. This was also a very bad episode for Aegon II, which I never mentioned this before, but he's played by Tom Glenn Carney. I'm not too familiar with him. And I know that I was initially critical, not of him itself, but maybe the writing for the character. But I feel like ever since episode 2 and 3, now of 4, I have a much better sense of him as a person now. It's like, oh, okay, now he's really kind of coming into to his own. And when I meant by like this is a very bad episode for King Aegon II, it's in the best way possible, because this episode really defines who he is to so many of the other characters in this series. He pretty much realizes during his small council meetings, the first one that we see in this episode, that Aemond, his brother, and Sir Criston Cole they've pretty much been coordinating this entire war effort for him to stay on the throne, like, without him. He's frustrated by that. He's indignant, and he's always attempting to change, their plans, and how they just constantly kind of dismiss him in front of his face, whether it be Aemon or Sir Criston Cole or just the various other advisors that are on the council, whether it be, Laera Strong, the foot fetish guy, or even like Tywin, like Lannister. It's really interesting to see all of that. There's this wonderful sequence, and Aemon is quickly. I mean, he's always been, ever since his introduction in the first season was so good. But like adult Aemon is, along with Daemon, is just one of my favorite characters, and because Aegon is kind of accusing Aemon of like, plotting behind his back and making decisions about the war effort without the king's, thoughts on the matter. And Aemon pretty much just talks down to his brother. He ends up speaking to his brother in Valyrian, which is the native language of House Targaryen, since they are originally from Essos. And they spoke this language, which is Valyrian, and so also in a way that like no one else in the room can like understand them. He's like, that's why it's completely directed at his brother, and like Aemon is, as clearly it's been shown, he's very competent, he's well read, he's a fighter, he's a dragon rider, he's pretty a well-rounded character, clearly psychotic to a degree, or maybe a bit of a sociopath, but he's not a fuck up. And he ends up speaking to his brother in fluent and like very well practiced like Valyrian. And when Aegon II replies to him, he sounds like a moron because it's all broken Valyrian. He can barely make any sense. And like Aemon's just smiling at him, like, you are just so ill suited for the throne. And Aegon just ends up sitting down after just being so wonderfully thoroughly mocked to Aemon. Even though like the other people in the room like didn't know what they were saying, it's obvious Aegon's response was so pathetic because people are cringing at him. His own advisors, his counselors are cringing at him. And I love, again, this is before we even get to any of the huge, big, bombastic sieges or the dragon battles. It's these conversations. It's just watching one character completely deconstruct another in such a thorough way that you as the audience member actually cringe in reaction. That's what this show does. And many other shows do so well, but it comes naturally through dialogue and through conversation. And I just love it because he's always going on about, it's like, well, you were busy playing king and knighting your fucking lick-spittle lackeys and sycophants to Kingsguard and stuff like Aemon and Criston Cole and all these other people were actually planning the war effort and actually have been succeeding, so far. And so Aemon, like, he resents, you start to see him like really resent his council, who has no respect for him at this point. And he goes to eventually his mother, or he comes across his mother, and his mother Alicent, who's going through her own shit in this episode, which I won't get into too much detail with because huge spoilers. But his mother Alicent tells him exactly what he is and what he needs to be, which is nothing. Like, she goes on about, my hope is that when we made you king, that you would actually have the wherewithal and maybe some intelligence to like sit back, shut up, and like listen to these obviously very intelligent people who earn the positions that they're actually in, and you absorb some of that, and you'd be like at least half the fucking king that your father was. He's like, you can't say that, and I would be careful. And she's like, why should I be careful? It's like, you are nothing. So just sit back, shut up, and let the adults handle this because you are so thoroughly incapable of handling it yourself. And I just thought it was great, and this causes him to do a rather rash decision that involves mounting his own dragon to assist in the siege of this castle called Rook's Rest. unbeknownst to a lot of the major players. Now, moving on from the Aegon the second and everything to do with the Greens, we also do return to Dragonstone. Rhaenyra has since come back, and now Rhaenyra, it's like one of my not a critique, but it's a thing that I've noticed with Rhaenyra so far, how she's like very indecisive this season. She's super indecisive, and she doesn't want to have this war escalate to an even worse point. But now that she's like, well, the only way this is going to end is if I'm going to survive is if we win this war. And so now we finally start to see her being more decisive. Might come too little too late, but at least we're starting to see that from her. And she's just also starting to criticize a lot of the people on her council, the malcontents who have been messing with things and questioning her various family members. But it's great to see her step up into that queen role, which she needs to, because at this point I'm looking at her, I'm looking at Aegon the second, like neither of them are great rulers, but maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the whole point of the series, which makes it interesting. It's like, yeah, maybe neither of these people are great for the throne, but at the same time, it's figuring out, through their different decision makings, like, okay, who would never be better, even if they're not going to be perfect, which is always inherently interesting. But she ends up making a decision like, all right, fuck it. We got to unleash the dragons. We got to start doing this. And it's like, this is a big decision. She wanted to avoid doing this because she knows now that thousands, tens of thousands of people are going to die at this point. And she didn't want to have to do that. But now we see that put into motion. And that leads up to Princess Rhaenys, played by Eve Best. She gets, man, I'll tell you what, I'll talk more about her in just a bit, but this causes her to be put into the field on her dragon Meleys. And this all sets up the basically the last half of the episode, the last third of the episode, where we get the biggest battle that we've seen this season, and I would argue this series overall. And I think the filmmakers behind this show also gave us an episode on the same level as some of the best and most bombastic, action-focused episodes of Game of Thrones, like Battle for the Blackwater and the Battle at the Wall and stuff like that. We get an epic and bloody siege with multiple dragons in the air, betrayals, and deaths of major characters. It's just simply thrilling and extremely entertaining on a pure visual spectacle level. Like, it looks great. The money's on the screen. It's beautiful looking, seeing these armies move around, this castle, the dragons sweeping and clashing in the air, like all that. But it's also an emotional one as well. And as I said before at the top, now is the time to be watching this show. We are at the start of this Targaryen Civil War, the Dance of the Dragons, and it's giving us that dark, epic, live-action fantasy content that's just not being made really theatrically. And I would say so far in this series, it's mostly succeeding across the board. But, Eve Best as Princess Rhaenys, the queen that never was, since it was originally between her and Viserys, during that great, meeting where all these different lords of Westeros voted to pick the heir, but because she was a woman, she obviously got shafted pretty goddamn hard. And, this episode focuses so much on her connection to her dragon, and she plays just a huge role in the conflict itself at Rook's Rest, and everything that she's given to do and say is impactful and emotional, but just through her just nonverbal acting, it's so easy to figure out like what she's thinking and feeling in some of these scenes, and I think she does a fantastic job in this episode. And this particular episode also sets up some really interesting things and the changing of dynamics, I think, between characters. I can't wait to see how some of this stuff is going to play out, for the next back half of this season. But yeah, we're full force into the Targaryen Civil War at this point, and what a what a way to like truly kick it off in just bombastic fashion. I really love this episode. And again, I implore people to finally check out this show, give it a chance, watch that first season you haven't had to, and then get to this, because episode 4 of season 2, whoo boy, it's really, really good. But I'm very curious to hear from you guys too. What did you, of course, think of this episode? Did you love it as much as I did? Were you more mixed? Did you not like it? What do you think of the season? What do you think of the House of the Dragon? You know, we're kind of seeing the triumphant return of Game of Thrones in a great way. And the other thing that makes me confident in this series, like wrapping up in a very satisfying way, is because the material's already done. It's printed. We're good. They have the history. Of course, they're expanding on it right now, you know, and adding more detail to it, but the conclusion's already written, which I think is a good sign for things to come. And I'm hoping because of that, more people will be able to check out the show with that knowledge. But I'm curious to hear from you guys. What do you guys think of House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 4, The Red Dragon, and the Gold One? But yeah, chat, highly recommend House of the Dragon. If you guys have not had the opportunity to check it out, it is great shit. Witch sex? Not yet. Not yet. There's definitely going to be some stupping. There's no doubt that people are going to be stupping that witch. Damon, yeah, probably. Unless she keeps fucking roofing him. She keeps drugging him in the episode. I thought that was great. He's like, where the fuck am I? Who are you? That was really good. It was great to see just Damon so caught off guard and kind of like so out of his element. And again, trying to maintain that facade and kind of fucking up and failing at the same time. It was a really interesting way to present his character, because he's so, you know, again, despite his quick temper, he is so always and thoroughly confident. But yeah, so goddamn good.